Hello everyone, and thank you for joining today's session on AI that passes inspections, document first RAG for highly regulated industries. To quickly introduce myself, my name's Beth, I'm an editor here at SSON and I will be moderating and hosting the session today. But before we jump into the main webinar, we do have some housekeeping for you all. To start, this session is being recorded and you will have access to the recording after the event, but to interact live, there are a few tools to note. Firstly, we have the Q&A function where you can pose questions to our speakers, and we always encourage you to do so as we reserve time at the end of our sessions for an audience Q&A. Next, we have the attendee chat where you can leave comments. If you have any technical issues, you can also use this chat to message myself or my colleagues, and we'll do our very best to help you out. It's also not easy presenting online, especially when you can't see the audience. So we have the reactions tab where you can post emojis to our speakers, such as a thumbs up or a smiley face. So please do use those if you are enjoying the session or agree with a particular point. It's always great to see how you guys are feeling about the sessions. And finally, as always, we have our resources tab on the bottom right of the screen with some great additional resources from our speakers, sponsor and the SSO network. You can also learn more about our speakers and connect with them on LinkedIn. So to support today's session, we have a copy of the slides for you all, as well as the AdLib ebook on Enovia and AdLib's partnership on AI-powered PLM in manufacturing, another ebook on audit-ready generative AI for insurers, an ebook on fueling smarter launches with Viva and AdLib, as well as a featured use case for life sciences, and a range of industry-specific solution sheets for space and defence, manufacturing, SLG, energy, life sciences, and the public sector. And finally, we have a link to another AdLib webinar on turning unstructured chaos into AI-ready content for life sciences regulatory. So please do check those out if they sound interesting. And before I introduce our speakers, it is important to note that this session is eligible for CPE credits, but to get the certificate at the end of the session, you must meet a few requirements. Firstly, you need to be located in North America. You need to view the session live. So for those of you with us right now, you've already ticked off that box. You need to vote in all 3 polls that you'll see later on in the session. Watch at least 50 minutes of the presentation, and finally answer the post-webinar survey and click yes for CPE certificates so we know to send your certificate to you. So now we've got all the admin out the way, I will go ahead and introduce our speakers for today. Starting with Dale Overholtz, who is the CTO at Westpoint Technologies. And Dale is an experienced technologies leader specialising in digital transformation for the insurance sector. As CTO, Dale favours innovation strategies that focus on applying practical, targeted changes that shrink cost centres and drive outsized returns for mission-critical workflows. Known for bridging technical depth with business outcomes, Dale is passionate about helping highly regulated organisations unlock the full potential of advanced technologies while maintaining trust and auditability. Next, we have Anthony Vigliotti, who is the Chief Product Officer at AdLib Software, with over 20 years' experience in business workflow and intelligent document processing. He started in manufacturing at Xerox, designing components for toner cartridge remanufacturer and earning a patent in the process. Seeing how outdated document processes slowed operations, he pushed for new automation approaches, momentum that led Xerox to sponsor his return to university for a master's in information technology. Since then, Anthony has led product management, alliance partner strategy, and product development across Xerox, Notable Solutions, Nuance, and Kofax. His work centres on driving unstructured content into reliable, compliant, AI-ready data that accelerates real-world outcomes in regulated industries. Anthony holds a BS in mechanical engineering and an MS in information technology, both from the Rochester Institute of Technology. Now, as a note, Chris Huff, CEO at AdLib, was intended to join us, but due to some last-minute changes, I'd like to give a shout out to Mickey Garcia, who has joined us, who is the Director of Product Management at AdLib Software. And Mickey is a life sciences focused enterprise document and quality management software leader with 25 years experience spanning industry strategy, product management, pre-sales and services. He has supported initiatives at Abbott, AbbVie, Medtronic, Johnson & Johnson, GSK, P&G, Smith & Nephew and Teva. and has held roles with AdLib OEM partners including Dassault Systems and Master Control, as well as content management leaders M-Files and Epicor ECM. Earlier in his career, he spent 7 years at Johnson & Johnson in operations, QA and IT, earning certification as a Lean Six Sigma Black Belt. He holds a BS in engineering from the University of Florida and an MBA from Stanford University. So thank you all of you for joining us today, and without further ado, I'll hand over to Mickey to kick us off.
Terrific. Thanks so much, Bethany. And thanks also to Anthony and Dale for supporting us, joining us today. This is going to be great. I'm going to start us off with just a few thoughts and then turn it over to to our panel session. So just a couple of thoughts about this document first RAG for highly regulated industries. So what changes when documents are AI ready by design? So let's take a look at a couple of things. So on the left is RAG today, and just to level set, I think probably everybody in the audience probably has an idea of what we mean by RAG, but RAG is retrieval augmented generation. It is how AI systems get data and documents from other systems to feed, to provide context for the answers that they're providing. This could be for generative AI. Sometimes it's also used for analytics, AI analytics. And what happens today is when we're providing this content or documents to these AI systems through RAG, through retrieval augmented generation, the documents that are entered, depending on the source, especially if they're high volume sources, they can be inconsistent. They can be scans or templates, and they're not always of the highest quality. That leads to a lot of rework in fixing up the data and being able to extract exactly what the meaning of those documents and their metadata. And that causes the exceptions to pile up, and it makes it difficult during the inspection and validation process. And then on top of that, there is a good, what we'll call lineage or provenance, being able to trace back where it is that this information came from that is driving your AI systems. And so where we're headed, where we want to head to, is this document first RAG, where text and images are standardized and extracted from these documents, so that when they feed these AI systems, generative AI or the analytic AI systems, the quality of that input is high quality. That high quality input is validated. That's what we mean by high quality input. And also, as I mentioned, the provenance or lineage, the source citations for that information is also tracked and traced, so that your AI outputs, you know where it's based off of. And then finally, having those things in place improves the quality of your AI and also causes that first pass yield to improve. So basically, in these document workflows, this RAG grounds the output from your controlled sources. So it's important to think about these controlled sources, reducing hallucinations and enabling provenance. So one of the things that we hear from our customers is that AI output is still not trustworthy. It's not deterministic. It's what we call stochastic. So you don't always get the same answer every time. And part of the reason why that happens is because the input is variable. It's not consistent and of high quality. As regulated companies, you have a lot of high quality data. You have a lot of high quality documents. These are your controlled documents. And so what you need is to marry that high quality input to formulate it in a way that the AI systems can make use of it, proper use of it, and give you good, consistent answers coming out. And that leads to both being validated and compliant. What exactly do we mean by AI-ready documents? So this is a little bit of a chart of what is involved in that. So first, you need a way to capture documents. So if you've used any of these AI systems, particularly, like, for example, generative AI systems like ChatGPT or Copilot, you'll know that getting context, getting file document context into those systems is not easy. It's not natural. A lot of times you just have to do it manually. So you need systems that help automate and scale that process. So that means ingesting or capturing those documents, That's kind of the first part. The second part is normalizing or standardizing that captured document, those captured documents in terms of standardized formats, PDF or text or Markdown or JSON. And then for those standardized inputs, you want to extract the meaning from those, extract the text, extract the data from that. You want to verify that extraction. Those extraction processes are quite good, but they're not 100%. And so you need those extracted results, the extracted text and data, to be verified. That can be done in a lot of automated ways through different types of business rules. But occasionally you also might want a person, a human in the loop, what you'll see sometimes referred to as HITL in here, to be involved in that process to verify that. And once you have that verified input to the AI system, then you can use RAG, or retrieval augmented generation, to bring that information into the AI system, to basically publish it into that AI system, so that the AI system has the context that it needs to answer your questions, make your business decisions, or help you make your business decisions and plans. Once the AI provides some output from that, it's also useful to have an additional step. If there are additional rules that you have to be able to validate that output to some kinds of rules or to some kind of auditability through provenance and audit trails, you want to be able to validate that AI output as well. And so once again, this is something that some companies take for granted, but really, in our experience, 60 to 80% of critical docs are not what we call AI ready, and certainly not AI ready at scale, which is what we are here talking about today. Now, a lot of folks may talk about, well, apart from scale, I thought LLMs, these generative AI systems, already do this. They already extract text and data. That's not really what their core function is. That's not really what they're designed to do day in and day out. And so it's useful to have this preliminary AI readiness step that allows you to extract, that specializes in extracting the text and image layers. It does this field level verification that I talked about through business rules and reference checks to a database, keeping track of that traceability to the provenance of the documents and the source of truth, the source of the system of record for that information. And then finally, some confidence scoring around whether or not that information is reliable. We've all been, one of the things that we often hear about AI systems is that they are overconfident. They always give us an answer. Whether or not they know that answer is true or not, they sound really sure. And so being able to tell whether or not the information that is driving that answer is really accurate is useful to be able to decide how much we should really trust that output. A lot of times our customers ask us to talk about what's the business case for being able to do things like this. And so this is a bit of a complex chart. I'm going to just go over it really quickly, but we've talked about some of the costs that are involved when you don't have good preconditioning of the information that's going into your AI systems, your generative AI or predictive AI systems. So things around retraining and tuning the models, things around having to involve actual users in reworking or entering data, handling exceptions and the delays that go along with this, and then also preparing for audits and inspections. At the end of the day, you have, you don't want to garbage in and then leading to garbage out. The value that you get, the investment that is realized from dealing with these things are, once again, like some of the things I talked about, being able to extract the text and image layers, to being able to standardize the input that is coming into these systems, into your AI systems, the extraction and validation rules, being able to track the traceability, the provenance, the citations of what's the system of record, and the source, the controlled source for the material that this AI system is acting upon. And hopefully the idea is to reduce the amount of human intervention required to increase the quality of the input so that you get higher quality output out. Customers also often want to talk about, well, how do I justify this to my management? And you can kind of think of it in 3 steps. First of all is the actual assessment itself. That's that simple model there. And so this is just kind of an example that one customer had of how they were saving over $5 million a year with this initial toy financial model to be able to start the assessment process. From there, you go into a pilot exercise and start small, pick 1 or 2 document processes that you feel like would benefit from this AI ready documentation. And then from there, scale beyond that. Now, we had a similar webinar a few weeks ago where we talked about a couple of other studies, including one MIT study that has gotten a lot of interest and a lot of publicity, where 95%, it was stated that 95% of AI projects were failing. That wasn't quite true. It's just 95% haven't shown economic impact yet. That economic impact may simply have not arrived yet, but it's certainly true that companies are very excited about and certainly a lot of the folks on this call are probably fall in this camp, where companies are very excited about being able to get on the AI train and take advantage of the immense power that's available through AI, once again, whether it's predictive AI or generative AI. And IDP solutions are one of those AI solutions that is proven to deliver value from an AI system. So once again, a lot of companies trying a lot of different things. There's a lot of experimentation and a lot of fast-moving parts to this space. But we're here to tell you that one of the things that is going to improve your chances of success, and we'll point to this Gartner study, is that the inputs to this process are AI ready. That if your inputs are not to the context of your generative AI is not proper, it's not the latest and greatest, it's not properly extracted, and it's not accurate, then your results are not going to be correct. They're not going to be validated, and they're not going to be trustworthy. And so this Gartner study talks about how 60% of AI projects will be abandoned due to this lack of AI-ready data. And so that's what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about how do we move from traditional IDP to what we'll call intelligent content agents. And so with that, I'll turn it back over to Bethany.
Brilliant, thank you, Mickey. And I'm actually going to pose a question to our audience. As you guys know, I like to keep you guys on your toes as well. So our first poll for you all is, where does your biggest AI or RAG readiness challenge lie? Is it in document quality and validation, governance and auditability, integration with legacy systems, talent and budget constraints? And whilst we give you all a minute to answer that question, I'm actually going to pose the first question back to you, Mickey. So you've used the term intelligent content agent. Can you just explain a little bit of how is that different from traditional IDP?
Sure, I'll talk about that a little bit. Traditional IDP uses a lot of the same tools that we've been talking about, but it usually ends up driving a line of business process. So, think of an invoicing process or something like that. IDP is used to capture information off of those high volume of incoming documents and drive a business process. Intelligent content agents is a bit of an extension. It's kind of an evolution of that, where the target system is these enterprise AI platforms. They are these non-deterministic generative AI or predictive AI systems that require a lot of the same information that IDP does, so which is why IDP is a great basis for intelligent content agents, but it fine-tunes that output, it fine-tunes those capabilities so that it really drives the value and the trustworthiness and the accuracy of these AI platforms, these enterprise AI platforms.
Great, thank you. I think you've really set a good foundation for this session with some great sort of entry level information for maybe people like myself that aren't maybe familiar with the technology. But with that, I will share and end the poll and we'll have a little look at the results. So interestingly, no one opted for talent and budget constraints, but 45% of you, so the vast majority of you, did go for document quality and validation, with a further 15% opting for governance and auditability, and 40% went for integration with legacy systems. I know internally at SSON we've heard that integration with legacy systems is a key challenge across any sort of implementation of a new technology. But for our panel, is this what you expected? Is this, what you're hearing in the market for common challenges?
Yeah, this is go ahead. Sorry.
I'll make one quick comment. So certainly the quality and validation is, exactly kind of what we've started out talking about here, as well as the governance and auditability. Those two kind of go hand in hand. The integration with legacy systems, I think that's also a special challenge with AI, because AI systems generally don't contain the context information. They have to kind of integrate and touch all these other systems that are the systems of record to be able to use that information as context to answer the questions. And this is an area that's quickly evolving in the AI space, in the enterprise AI platform space. Yeah, I just wanted to point that one out. I think that one is especially interesting. Go ahead, Anthony.
Yeah, I think this aligns well with the experiences that I've had and the customer conversations we've had as well. Most companies have a desire to get to an AI outcome. So budget typically isn't a concern, at least at this point. What they're really struggling with is after they've made their initial AI choices, they start running documents through and they start realizing that the quality and the outputs aren't as expected. So then they start to learn very quickly that document quality and validation is a primary concern. Now, if you do make it to that point, you ultimately got to get this data and this context that you've now extracted from your document into a system of record or a line of business application, which is when people start to learn about the integration with legacy systems being problematic. So I think this is an indication of the flow of how people are learning to leverage AI in their environments. So not surprised, at least for me, for the results.
Absolutely. Well, Anthony, the next question is actually for you as well. So we could kind of dive a little bit deeper into this. So Mickey talked about documents acting as intelligent agents. So from a technology standpoint, what makes that possible?
Yeah, I think we need to shift our thinking about documents in general. Documents were typically in the past thought of as passive. You capture a document, you store that document, you retrieve that document. And that's great. There's content management and RIM systems and quality management systems that do that well. But as we start moving into this world of AI, we start to think of AI as knowledge workers, as their documents as knowledge holders. So information just isn't in your employees, information is also within your documents as well. So we need to be able to extract that content in a way that allows that document to be just as effective as, say, a knowledge worker in your business. So the first challenge you have is how do you get that document into your AI system? Well, sometimes your files are compatible. Maybe they're image files, maybe they're PDF files, they're TIFF files. That's great. Your AI systems likely can input those documents and comprehend. But what if they're not? What if they come from your quality system? Their standard operating procedures, their CAD files, their reports that you get with inbound chemicals. These things typically aren't ready for import into your AI or large language model. So just this file conversion and document readiness is important. And that gets you to the point of capture. Now, the second thing that makes these documents agents is we want to make certain that not only are we capturing the content from the document, that it's accurate. Mickey spoke about hallucinations and problems with predictability and reliability from your large language models. So what we're able to do with our technology is test the accuracy of what comes out of the large language model or AI system. And we do that through various techniques. One of them could be deploying multiple prompts. So a single prompt gets you one answer, multiple prompts gets you multiple answers. And now we have the ability to run it through a voting algorithm that determines which ones are consistent, which ones are not. And the ones that are not consistent can go through an additional round of validation, such as additional steps that we can manage automatically or maybe human in the loop. We also have the ability to run the content through multiple large language models. And once again, running them through a voting algorithm. So if model 1, model 2, and model 3 all agree, great, you have probably agreement and consensus that the data is accurate. If there's any disparities across these models, then we take secondary steps to validate what needs to be done in order to get the right content out. Thirdly is the type of information that is presented to a large language model. If you have a complex document that has embedded imagery, checkboxes, handwriting, you may not be able to get satisfactory results from all of that with a single large language model. So being able to decompose the document in such a way that you present a single object or the information that that particular large language model is good at in giving you the information required, you now have a better chance of getting the outcome that you expect. Which gets us to the last step after we have now accurate data, which is around validation and auditability. And this is where RAG really comes in. So being able to vector encode the document into your database such that when you had to retrieve that document at a later time for audit purposes, or you need to determine what the source of this content was, this is where RAG comes in. And AdLib, with its latest technology, has the ability to accomplish all three of those technology sets for providing content into your large language models, validating that the data is accurate, and then largely presenting you with opportunity for audit and search. So all that wraps up to it being the document itself becoming a content agent.
I'd like to add one other thing to what Anthony said, just building off what he said about thinking differently about the documents. If you think about like the revolution that really started in November 2022 with the release of ChatGPT 3.5, is that IDP has been around for a long time, and IDP has over time gotten really good at extracting structured data. What ChatGPT does and other similar generative AI systems is it also deals really well with unstructured data. So it opens up an entirely new avenue for information systems to process documents that used to be black boxes, just files. Think of a contract. In most enterprise systems, that contract, that document, was a black box. No information system could really do anything with that. But with generative AI, that's really good at dealing with unstructured information, that content within that document now becomes super valuable as well. So not only is the structured document super important to drive the AI outcomes, that unstructured content also becomes super important as well. So I just want to add that.
Yeah, thanks, Mickey.
Brilliant. Thank you, Anthony. Thank you, Mickey. And so we've delved into what intelligent content agents mean, how, from a technology standpoint, this is possible. But let's look at the impact. So Dale, first of all, welcome. And you're currently evaluating the new AdLib release. What challenges are you trying to solve, and what's holding your team back from scaling automation and AI at the moment?
Sure. So for those of you who need some context, we operate in the insurance space, and you can imagine there's a little bit of regulation that takes place in that area. So one thing about insurance companies is they want it to be easy for their consumers to submit documents so that they can have as much information as possible to make the right decisions. Some examples could be handwritten inspection reports, 4K images of a roof, all sorts of things that are unstructured, just like Mickey and Anthony have been talking about. And IDP kind of chokes on those types of documents. And you take that and then you multiply it by 10 or 20 times in a catastrophe situation. A big hurricane rolls through and you just have all of these inspections, all of these documents flowing through. And on top of that, the government wants to make sure the public is served well. So they're asking for quick turnaround on response times and constant reporting on, are you making the right decisions? Are you treating our population with respect and making good decisions for them? And any misstep from the business could result in fines. It could result in lawsuits, all sorts of trouble. It's a whole minefield that we're dealing with here. And so when you talk about, you talk about challenges we're facing, there's a whole list. So what is going to be the key to scaling then for us? And I really think the key is, our customers need to be able to answer, how can I be confident that an AI agent will consistently make decisions that I can stand behind? And then on top of that, how can I prove to a regulator that these were the right decisions? And when you listen to what Mickey's talking about and what Anthony is talking about, having that nice, clean, accessible metadata for an AI agent to draw from is going to be vital for that thing to ever be able to make a useful decision in an environment like that.
Brilliant, thank you. So we've obviously covered, legacy systems, unstructured data, data validation, but something else for you, Mickey, or this question is for, one theme we are hearing is that governance gaps are also the number one barrier to scaling automation. So for you, what does good governance look like in this new era of intelligent content agents?
Sure. I'm reminded of, once again, my background is primarily in life sciences, and there's a concept in life sciences specifically from the FDA called quality by design. And it basically talks about how you don't want to, and this is a common quality assurance, quality control concept. You don't want to inspect in quality. You don't want to design a product or a process, manufacture it or run that process, and sometimes it comes out good, sometimes it doesn't, and then you just kind of throw away the bad stuff. That is, that's kind of like an old way of thinking. Instead, what you want is you want to design the product or design the process so that it delivers consistent, good results. That's what we call being validated every single time. And in order to have a system like that, you have to have governance over that system. And to me, the governance, you need tools and processes and people to provide that governance. But that governance is dictated kind of by the goals of that governance. And so to me, like we've been talking about, there's kind of like three main goals. One is you want that process to be validated because you want it to be reliable and trustworthy. You want it to be traceable, often because those processes are auditable if they're regulated processes. And then finally, you want it to be easy to understand. And this is something that's really important in the AI world. It's hard. A lot of times, it's just a black box how these generative AI or predictive AI systems are coming up with these answers. And making those answers easy to understand is an important step to making those answers defensible. And I've been in the audit situations. Probably a lot of folks on the call have been in audit situations. And the last thing that you want is to be defending something that's indefensible. So yeah, that's what I would say.
Brilliant, thank you. And we actually have another poll for our audience, which you should all see coming up on your screen now. We're delving into the outcomes and impact a little bit further. So for everyone watching, what outcomes matter most for your document automation investments? Is it compliance and audit readiness? Is it faster cycle times, improved accuracy, or AI enablement? And whilst you answer that, I'm actually going to direct a similar question to Dale. So for you, Dale, when you look a year or two ahead, what would success look like for your document processes at West Point?
So I'd say that's pretty clear for us. And it's closely in alignment with many people who are looking to implement AI into their structures. The key thing is, humans should really be focusing less and less on tedious work. And instead, they can be abstracted away from that and working more on business driving decisions and, making a difference with their every move. Obviously, AI is not going to be perfect, so you're going to end up with humans in the loop. like Mickey was saying, and there will be unknown edge cases, but when they make those decisions, the system responds and it learns and it's trained so that when that comes back around, it's ready to help them focus on the business and do less of that monotonous work. And then the last thing is we need clean, trustable context that's secure, that's accessible from AI agents that are operating, on behalf of someone to generate answers, to be able to respond to events, and all of this leaving an audit trail behind so that at any point in time, we can ask a question about why something was done a certain way and get that answer with ease.
Great, and I could see a couple thumbs up reactions coming up as you were saying that, so I can see that some of our audience certainly agree. And with that, if I end the poll and share the results, we can see that the majority of you opted for improved accuracy at 44%, with 38% of you opting for compliance and audit readiness, 13% opted for AI enablement, and then 6% of you opted for faster cycle times. So does anyone have any commentary on that? Is that, what you expect or you hear from your customers? Are they usual, desired outcomes?
And once again, I think this dovetails nicely with my experiences. I think all customers have a desire to make an AI choice, deploy that AI choice, and have it work swimmingly in their production environment. And what they quickly learn is the accuracy simply isn't there. You can sometimes prompt accuracy in. Sometimes you need to make investments in additional AI technology. And sometimes you just need to take a good, healthy look at your documents and the context going in to ensure that the large language models and AI systems have the best chance of success. So nobody wants to insert inaccurate information into their mission critical business processes, particularly in regulated industry. So I'm not surprised by 44% with the improved accuracy. Anyone else for thoughts there?
I'll add one other thing about the improved accuracy thing. So if you think about like IDP traditionally driving data into line of business systems, the accuracy of that data that goes into those systems, that can often be caught by people during the process. You can establish rules, you can establish checks for that kind of stuff. If you're taking information, data, either unstructured or structured data out of documents and putting it into an AI system, and then the AI system delivers a result, it's very hard to tell from that final result whether the incoming data and unstructured information into the AI was good or not, because that AI is doing a transformation that's not very observable, that's not very interpretable. And so it's hard to tell from the final output that the accuracy is bad, which adds a whole nother layer of risk of that accuracy being poor. It makes it hard to find poor accuracy.
Yeah, and I think accuracy is a clear theme on our side as well, because adoption really comes down to trust. And if they can't trust that it's accurately doing anything, then it doesn't matter how fast it is, it's never going to be adopted. And that's just a waste of money and time.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you all for your feedback on the poll. And if anyone in the audience has any other commentary on that, please do leave it in the chat. We'd love to hear what you guys think. And now the next question's for you, Anthony. So how are customers connecting traditional RIM or ECM with these AI-driven workflows without ripping and replacing their current infrastructure?
Yeah, it's a good question, and I know it's one that customers struggle with all the time. There's a few things here to consider. One is these regulatory information management systems or content management systems are the very systems that are holding the data or the documents that Mickey called the black box earlier. So you really can't rip and replace them because they're kind of the heart of where most of your information may reside. So the real question is, how do you get it to the point where it can be evaluated or processed by an AR large language model system? So really what we have to be as AdLib is the connective tissue. So we are there to really live and play within the environments that our customers already have. So if they have a regulatory information management system, that's fine. We have to connect to that. If they want to get it to their project lifecycle management system, that's fine. We have to connect to that as well. But the real thing to consider is most of these systems have been in place for a long time. In fact, longer than AI has really been in our commercial environments, in our goals for 2025 and beyond. So how do you map the outputs of an AI system to a regulatory system or project like that was never really built to handle an AI input? And once again, that's really where a company like AdLib has the ability to help. Because as we are the connective tissue, we sit at the source, which is pre-processing documents prior to the AI system. We get that information back from the AI system, and we do what we do best. For 20 plus years, we've been connecting to document management, content management, lifecycle management systems. So we have the opportunity to format that to the metadata requirements, to the security requirements, with setting the right permissions and security for the documents and data that we're uploading. So for us, this is something that we are really good at because we've been doing it for a long while. And being the connective tissue between your source documents and your chosen AI technology really allows us to connect the dots that were once unconnected.
Great, thank you, Anthony. And Mickey, to round off our panel before we move to audience Q&A, we have a sort of future-looking question for you. What does the next phase of automation look like in highly regulated industries?
Ooh, if I knew that, I'd be a billionaire. It's obviously quickly evolving. There's a lot of experimentation going on out there. We know that the interactive AI, generative AI systems, like kind of the ChatGPTs and the Copilots and the Geminis, they have burst on the scene. They are getting more and more traction in the enterprise space. We've also heard this, just in this past year, this huge wave of agentic systems. So basically automated systems that use AI to process, to conduct business processes. And so we're just riding the wave of the interactive chat-based AI systems coming into place, and then soon to be followed by these automated agentic systems. And those agentic systems are going to be, it's going to be even more important for there to be these, these three, governance principles that we've talked about: the being validated, being auditable, and being easy to understand, or observable, or some people call it interpretability. Having those things in place to drive those waves, not just to happen, not just for the experimentation, but for successful outcomes, for successful business outcomes. Because really, at the end of the day, Dale mentioned this early on, that's what's important is the business outcomes. It's not just trying something, it's getting something to work. And being able to put the underlying fundamental pieces in place that maximize your chances of success, being able to create a validated system and process. That's where we're headed.
Great, thank you. And before we head into our audience Q&A, you'll remember that I promised you all 3 polls. So we do have the last poll now, and we just would like to know, would your organisation benefit from an executive AI readiness review? So please do let us know what you think on that one. And whilst we will give you a moment to answer that, let's jump straight into the audience questions. So I can see we firstly have a question from Petra, who, it's not directed to anyone in particular, so anyone jump in. But Petra is asking, when you refer to RAG, what level of RAG technology are you using? So levels that are commonly used are basic RAG, retrieve and re-rank, multimodal, graph, agentic, and multi-agent.
Yeah, I think that's a question obviously for AdLib. Dale, if you have any RAG experiences in your environment, feel free to share. But from an AdLib perspective, what we're doing is we're processing documents. AdLib is not in the business of storing documents long-term, so we're typically transactional. So our job with RAG is as we're processing the document to do all the vector encoding and the embeddings required to feed your RAG search and audit systems of choice. So if you have a vector database, you want your encodings and embeddings in that vector database, we have the ability to feed that. And that allows you through your normal business process, once again, we meet you where you are, to use your standard systems to benefit from the embeddings and the encodings that we've done. The second answer I would give you is one of the ways we're also using RAG is to improve the human in the loop experience. So if you're, say, an insurance claims agent and you have received a human in the loop queue, meaning your document is waiting for your review, you open up that document and it's asking you for validation of information that you've quite frankly never seen before. It's the first time you're ever seeing that document. It's the first time you're seeing that claim. And you may have questions about why you've received it, context of the document, information maybe in other documents not yet available to you during this review cycle. So being able to chat with your documents and also being able to chat with your vector store is also a really important part of it. So what we're doing with RAG is enabling those two things, search and auditability for your vector database, and also to improve the human in the loop experiences for those knowledge workers that are interacting with validation steps. Okay. Any other thoughts there, Dale or Mickey?
That sounds good.
Brilliant, thank you, Anthony. And thank you, Petra, for the question. So moving to our next question from Danushka. So Danushka would like to know, when it comes to cross-border compliance, how can a document-first RAG system handle the complexity of differing regulatory standards and document formats across multiple countries, whilst ensuring local compliance and global consistency?
Yeah, that's a stump question right there. There's a lot in that one. So I think there's a few things that we would need to consider first. One is understanding obviously what countries you're working through. And obviously, as you mentioned, there's different compliance standards for each country. One of the things that AdLib has done behind the scenes is we've integrated a workflow automation platform. And this workflow automation platform means that our business process doesn't have to be linear. So as we're learning about the document itself or interactions with a human, we have the ability to make choices. So let's say, for example, we determine that this particular document that we're processing is from Spain. We can make that a decision point. Okay, we have a document that's from Spain. What are the regulatory standards and processes that are specific to Spain? And it branches off on the Spain tree from that point forward. And if there was an Italian document, there's a different, tree, and we can build these out. So this would be something that would be not necessarily unique for your environment, but we have to recognize that as we're working with these AI technologies, that this notion of being linear is kind of out the window. You need to have decisions that are made, as many times those decisions are not made by a human. So as we determine the origin of a particular document, steps can be taken to branch off to various sub-steps as required to process that document. And Dale, I think you had a similar thing around translation, if I remember correctly. Was that one of your requirements? If the answer is no, that's yeah.
It's not quite the same, but I think you pretty much covered all of the thoughts that I had on that. Like, you need to make sure that your business is ready to handle those types of things. And then when you're walking into an implementation, you walk in from a position of understanding and you leverage those flows in the proper way. So
Right.
I can't really add a whole lot to what you've got.
Yeah, there's you answered the questions around compliance, or the question was around compliance, but this branching is really important for many reasons. I'll give you two examples, real customer examples. One was, there are knowledge workers in, say, an insurance claims agent that is trying to process a claim, and you may be getting claims from around the world, and that person may not speak Spanish. They speak English, but you have the ability, if a non-English claim comes in, that you can summarize that claim in the language that insurance claims agent speaks. And once again, that's this concept of branching technology. If a non-English document comes in, we take a different step. Something that's more related to the question asked is around export control. So based on different countries, there's different export controls. and you have different disclaimers that need to go on your documents depending on the country of origin. So once again, branching technology, we determine the country of origin. We have the ability to determine what compliance language needs to be inserted. And as part of our process, we actually insert a title page that has the appropriate export year and compliance statements on that particular document. So very, very similar to the question that was asked.
I'll add a couple of things kind of based on some stuff that Anthony mentioned, which is a couple of the challenges is when customers don't have options from their systems. So for example, if the only option that they have from their system is SaaS, and guess what? You don't get to decide where that SaaS is running, where that cloud instance is running. You know, that's an option that makes international compliance more difficult. So being able to have options to have on-prem or to pick your data centers, you know, that having those kinds of options are important for international compliance. The second thing is around models and providing data to models. Once again, having options there is also important. Some systems don't give you the option of where your model is going, what it's training, whether it's publicly available. Is it going to Azure? Is it going to OpenAI? Whereas, you know, you want to try to pick systems, and AdLib tries to adhere to this, where you get to choose what LLM models get your data and where those models reside. So I just want to mention those two things.
Great, thank you guys. And our next question, we've spoken a bit about legacy systems and how that can be a slight challenge. But how would an organisation migrate from legacy OCR IDP, to an intelligent content agent without disrupting their workflows?
Right, so sorry for monopolizing the time here. What I would suggest is OCR is technology that's still quote unquote considered AI. You know, it's natural language processing and understanding. So you'll find that even many AI systems are using that technology. So you may be able to find that you don't have to throw it away entirely, but it can use to augment some of the AI steps or to improve the outcomes that you may require. So that's one thought. The second thought is what AdLib is good at is we do not have an end user experience. I used the word connective tissue before. So what that means is we are literally watching the sources where these documents reside. And once a document hits that particular source and meets in a certain acceptance criteria, that's when we ingest the document. And one of the beauties of that is most end users of AdLib don't even know they're using AdLib because they're just working the way they work. That document landed in that RIM folder, this document landed in that PLM folder, and magically that document was processed into the appropriate AI routine and the appropriate line of business steps thereafter. So if you use a system like AdLib, you really don't have to worry about the invasiveness or change because their end user population is none the wiser. They're working the same way they've always worked, but behind the scenes, the technology may be different. And that's the reason why we chose the approach we chose of not having a new interface or an experience that the community needs to learn and use.
Great, thank you. And I think we have time for just one more question before we'll wrap up. So as a sort of round off, do you have any tips on change management and helping teams that may be struggling to let go of their manual steps?
I think I can take the floor on this one, Anthony, if you don't mind. So I think this is actually going to be similar to, at least for those of you who are in management positions, it's similar to transitioning a new manager into their role who just came out of a producer role. You know, so when they go from doing the work to managing people who do the work, they have a hard time not doing the work themselves. And what are the common reasons for that? Well, I think there's two common sources of that thinking pattern. The first is maybe they don't believe that it's valuable, it's more valuable for them to let it go than to do it themselves. And so maybe you need to help them to believe that. The second is maybe they don't trust the outcomes will be high quality. or as high of a quality as if they did it themselves. So how would you approach that situation? I think it starts with sparking a discussion with the person who needs to let go of these manual steps and ask questions that draw out those concerns. Maybe it's just those two, maybe there's something else to it. And then you label the feelings behind those concerns. So you are afraid of letting the AI do this because you feel like you could do a better job, or because you feel like fill in the blank here. And now they feel like you understand, they get it. They're like, oh yeah, you get it. That's exactly it. And then from there, you can ask them, okay, so how could we move towards letting go of these steps while keeping those concerns in mind? And now they're engaged in that process. They're planning with you, they're strategizing with you. And as a result, they feel understood and they're bought into that strategy. They're more likely to execute. It's probably not going to be a light switch, like, oh, suddenly they've let go of everything, but it's going to go a lot more quickly than if you were just to say, all right, you're not allowed to do it anymore. Good luck.
Yeah, a few thoughts there. One is, Dale, you used the word like tedious work earlier in an earlier answer. I found that if there are steps that are tedious, that no one loves doing, like just look at your day and your life. You know, if there was a wave a magic wand and you can remove this from your life, there's probably a few you could. So removing some of the manual steps around just file conversion, cleaning up and standardizing documents, making them AI ready is typically busy work. And that is something that can be automated, and most people are willing and able to hand off. So that's one area of opportunity. The second area of opportunity is we have to remember that this is human augmented AI, and it's not AI augmented human. Right. So we need to make certain that the processes and the experiences that we put in front of this knowledge worker community really makes them feel like they're still valued, that they're an active participant and adding true value as a knowledge worker, just not working for an AI agent to get validation on a data field that somehow failed. So really involving them in the process that makes them feel like they're truly contributing and important is something that we found also drives adoption.
Brilliant. Well, thank you. I think that's some great practical tips and insights to sort of round the session off. But the sad part of my job is I always have to be the person that brings the bad news, because we have unfortunately come to the end of our allotted time. But I first of all want to say a huge thank you to Dale, Anthony and Mickey. It's been a wonderful session and I think there's been some great insights, and I've seen a lot of very nice emoji reactions from our audience, so I can see they've taken a lot from this session as well. For everyone watching and is still with us, thank you for taking the time out of your day to join us. And please be sure to fill out the post-session survey, partly to claim your CPE credits, but also because we love to hear what you think. And do check out all those great resources that AdLib and the speakers have shared with you all. But unfortunately, that is all from us. So thank you, everyone, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you. Bye-bye, everyone.
Thank you.